Oh yes, this is the Hardcore Marketing Show. I'm Casey Cheshire, your host for this epic journey. Today's show is sponsored by Ringmaster, on a mission to launch B2B podcasts that create relationships, generate revenue, and drive growth. Ringmasterlive.com. Bam. And there it is. It is just here. Oh my gosh, I hit the button. I'm stuck. I have to do this, but I'm excited. There's no turning back. This is about to happen. And I'm just so excited. Okay, who am I talking to? Why can I not even do an introduction right now? Because I'm talking to a genius. He is a sales leader, thought leader. Topics like SDR, sales, outbound sales, personalization, objection handling. I object. You would. Now he started in sales and now he's transitioned to that world of entrepreneurship and tech. He's actually helping create some tech to help sellers sell, which we're going to get into all these different things. Now, some say he's actually the gift god, but he would describe himself as a man, a human being with 12 plus years in sales. Co-founder of Vidu, Will Holden. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you very much. That was a stunning intro. I really appreciate it.
I do my best.
I hope I live up to the hype. No, I'm of godly status when it comes to gifs and memes now.
Yes, joke. Godly status. So tell me.
I'm trying.
Tell me. I have a question. I need to. Oh, I gotta grab. I had it in a different place. 1 second.
Go get it.
Here it is. Okay, here it is. I was storing this object in another place. All right, it's heavy. Oh, look at that. Okay. Grab it. Can you grab that?
I got it.
Okay.
It's heavy though, man.
Take Thor's hammer and smash for me something, Will. Smash a marketing myth, bogus strategy, misconception. Set the record straight once and for all.
Okay.
Smash.
This might sound a bit general and we tease it out, but not all leads are created equal. And that maybe to a lot of folks sounds obvious, and that's great. You know, you're progressive marketers and you're listening to this and you're finding all sorts of ways to segment your leads and help salespeople extract value from them and provide value to them in really structured and thoughtful, capacity sensitive ways, let's call it. But there are a lot of folks out there that a lead is a lead and they have a target of MQLs and it's this big, homogenous target. And then if they deliver it, they did a great job. And if they didn't, they did a bad job. But that is a myth and it's a lot more nuanced than that. And in my experience, of course, not all leads are created equal. And the definition of what makes a good lead from a marketeer's perspective and from a seller's perspective can be wildly different within the same company, within the same org, even sometimes within the same room. There can be this discourse around what a good lead is. And I've felt it before. We're at polar opposites, right? Polar opposites. And even when we have a common definition of this is a high scoring lead.
That's crazy, man.
No, it's not.
That's crazy. Shouldn't it be sales' definition?
That's a really good point. So it kind of should and it shouldn't. This is an interesting point. I mean, if it was, fine, but I would argue, and yeah, maybe there'd be some short-term wins from that and the sellers would feel great and the marketeers might, well, okay, you own it. You're accountable to it. You tell us.
I gave you what you want, man. That's what you asked for.
Here's a fun thing. So sellers oftentimes actually, they don't know entirely what they want. They don't always know what great is. And even if they do, it might not remain great forever. So in a changing market and as businesses grow and as their needs grow and as their goals change, what might have been a good lead last month might not be anymore. So it's less that sales know and should know and marketing should listen to sales. And it's more like when this is done really well, it's more of a flywheel, right? Where both parties, and there are lots of other people connected to this, not just marketing sales. It's really anybody and everyone that touches revenue to some degree. Ideally, there's this feedback loop, this mechanism between all of them. And we're constantly optimizing and redefining what a quality lead looks like. And there are a few, mechanisms you can put in place to do that. But really, you can boil it all down to just like constant communication and conversation about what good and bad is, with managers and leaders in there to help layer and filter and focus everything. But when it's done well, like not all leads are equal. There is some form of segmentation. And actually that segmentation changes frequently and often. And yes,
Kicking
it
it
will
off.
be driven by sales and their perspective on what's happening on the ground, right? In the weeds. There's a lot of nuance to be gathered from them, and marketing needs to be careful not to take it all on board and filter it. But it shouldn't be dictated by a seller. I think there's this really healthy middle ground, and it's very hard to do it. It's really hard to do that. And that's why I think it can sometimes default to, well, there are the leads. And then there's a bit of an over the fence motion, and it's like, go and work the leads.
Right.
And
then sales says they're shit leads. I hate them.
Yeah,
give me more.
To us, sellers can't close things. What's going on? And then this unconstructive dialogue just starts to fester into something else, and then things can break down, and then you end up with like true silos and resentment.
Right.
So we don't want that.
No, we don't. It's interesting to hear you say it that way too, because as a sales leader, thought leader, mover and shaker in that department, and I know you've done work in marketing and whatnot, so that's
not all of
how
those
you've
things.
seen the bridge, but to have you say that and to give up some ground to say, let's still make it in the middle is really interesting to me to hear, because I've often been leading discussions either as a marketer or as like the person in between trying to counsel them back together. And I've experienced that too, where sometimes you're like, okay, sales, you can have anything you want. What do you want? And sometimes there's either no answer or no idea. And then the knee-jerk reaction from sales can, with their aggressive stance, could be like, I'll sell anybody.
Yeah.
Hey, do you want this size, or this size? All the sizes.
And it doesn't work like that. And if a seller ever says that to you, right, there's an issue, because and practically it comes down to this. Okay, you can sell everybody. Great. I wouldn't argue with that, right? You're a good seller. There are lots of companies out there. You have broad product market fit. You work with all types of people. Like, yeah, fine. You get an app back. You could probably sell anybody. You have 40 hours a week, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you do 60 or 80, whatever.
Right.
There's a finite amount of capacity you have as a seller and then as a team. Think about that capacity as just, units of work. You can't give every lead all units of that work, right? You can't give them all that capacity. So yes, maybe in a vacuum, you could sell anybody, but in a real life, living, breathing, growing organization, in a changing organization, there needs to be some level of thought and prioritization, right? And we need to make trade-offs, and we need to accept. I think that this is the sign of a mature seller and a sales org for me, and then a marketing partner with them, is this acceptance that we're not going to be able to go, full blown, all out, 100% effort on everything. Because if we do that, it's very likely that we won't do anything very well. And this is why that optimization and that pull up and that feedback is so important, because at any point in time, we're going to need to accept that some of these leads, they're going to get more time than others. And that's totally appropriate. Maybe they're scored differently. Maybe historically they've converted better, right? Maybe we just know that with the makeup of our team today, it's staffed with SMB sellers. We're just not in a position to capitalize on an enterprise opportunity. So we shouldn't build a really robust motion around that just yet. But that changes, right? All those things change. The sales team matures, the marketing team matures, the market matures, the products change, customer sentiment, trends in the market. There are all these other variables out there that at any point in time will dictate how effectively you can sell to a group of prospects, right? A segment of them. Right. And it doesn't mean you change it every day. It just means that every month, like every day, ideally, you've got open dialogue, but it's filtered. And then every month you pull up and you have a good meeting, right? You sit down, you do a full review. What was sent over? How has it worked? What's the anecdotal feedback? What of that can we regard as objective, as subjective? Like, can we go deep on a handful of these and really tell a story around them as opposed to just broad strokes, the leads are bad, And then can we take some of that and tweak, go to market, how we talk to our customers, like the lead capture mechanisms we have in place, all this. It's just this, if I'm not rambling too much, it's this constant evolution. And like, it's not sales are, they're not sitting in a driver's seat, right? And they shouldn't be. For me, there are all these little cogs in a big machine called the business. Sales is one of them. Doesn't matter how big or small that cog is. They're a cog, right? Marketing is another one. Mm-hmm. So it's less about one of them driving and dictating what happens in the rest of the machine. It's more about them like feeding back to each other information and supporting one another to be as efficient, to turn as efficiently as they can do, if that's not too silly of an analogy.
No, it's not. And this is why I know we were talking at the beginning, the idea of, and for everyone listening, why do you have a sales leader on a marketing podcast? This is exactly why, because we need to have this conversation and we need to have this dialogue, and the maturity of both marketing and sales and revenue together can really increase when marketers have an understanding. I love that you highlighted this, the idea of prioritization, right? The fact that good sales prioritize. If they're not good, if they're not mature, they're not prior, they're just kind of winging it and calling whatever in front of them.
They're gun-ho and they're going to drop the ball, and they'll hide that through ego.
And that rep with 40 hours, 40 units, I love that idea, can't call 4,000 leads, right? Or appropriately follow up on all of them. So there's a balance here. You don't need to send too much, but at the same time, you want to send them, and if you can, to your point, help them prioritize, but know that they need to spend time in different places. And so, the idea that sales needs to prioritize helps marketing realize, okay, it's not a big department of jerks over here. They're just trying to do what they got to do to try to maximize their time to get those conversions.
I suppose the myth here so much isn't like, it's a nice tagline, wasn't it? Not all leads are created equal. It's more so not all leads should be treated equally, right?
Oh, I love that.
Should be worked equally. And an example of this is it's very normal for a marketeer to segment leads maybe 3 ways, right? I say segment, I mean, this is not so much segmentation, it's more just scoring, right? These are really good, these are medium, and these aren't as great. We want to work them all, but the way that manifests is SLAs, So in my experience, okay, there are 100 leads, right? 30 of them have a 2-hour SLA, as in you need to get on that lead and start working it in a meaningful way, and it needs to be shown in the CRM within 2 hours. And then we can track that as a KPI. Right? That's a heuristic of how well or not this machine is running. Are you running with what we give you in a reasonable time frame? You jump in on the opportunity. 2 hours, medium might be 8 hours, low scoring might be like a day or more, right? Now that's good. That's a start,
right?
But it doesn't take account of the whole picture. It's that all that is just, it's the starting point. It's a catalyst. It's like, right, I'm going to work it. Cool. Next question. How are you going to work it? Again, like I can start to work 100 leads in like 10 minutes. I just press a load of buttons. The system thinks I'm working it. What we really want to be focused on is, well, how am I working it? That's the greater investment of time. That's the bigger opportunity. And that's when we start to think about not just prioritization of first response time and those higher level SLAs, but what are the structures in place behind that step, like after that step, as in how much time are we going to give to a low scoring lead within a week, right? Do they get 20 minutes? Do they get an hour? Do they get more? What does that actually look like? Like, are we going to send more or less emails? Are we going to put more or less time into the messages? Are we going to cold call? Should we cold call these people or not? We look at the units of time we have per head, right? Times the number of heads. How much of that capacity do we want to invest in a very, it can be a very effective, but it's also a very costly activity, right? So we start to not only say, well, we should do this before we do this, right? High and low, but we say, we should do this more. We should go deeper, right? And this is the notion of, if you're a high scoring lead, I'm going to give you 3 hours of my time over a 2-week period, versus if you're low scoring, you might get 10 minutes and there might be some automation in there, right? And when as sales leaders, we get together and we talk about pipeline, we will discount lower scoring things because we know they're unlikely to convert or less likely, right? It's really about resource allocation. And it's so much more than just follow up within this period of time or meet this SLA. It's, well, what do we put in place behind that metric to make sure that we're not burning too much or just the right amount of time on this lead, and then constantly changing and optimizing that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And that is the sales cog that's moving, or underneath that are the many of them. And we're trying to make this, the sales side spin as efficiently as possible. And then you plug that marketing side in, and it's like, we need to be cognizant of the sales side of it, so that we can not send too little, too many. We're trying to keep sales efficient. We're like an efficiency, incubator, or an expediter. We can help sales become more efficient with here's more leads that are, sorted appropriately for you to help you maximize your time.
I haven't thought this analogy through at all, but I'm just going to run with it, right?
Yeah.
It's like a car that has 3 engines, an engine for every score, every chunk of segmentation you adopt. And each engine drives the car in a different way. And I don't know, maybe that day you have a really long way to travel. Maybe you can travel further on one engine, it just takes longer. Maybe there's another engine that gets you to a short-term goal, but it runs out of steam pretty quick, right? It won't take you as far, but it'll get you there faster. This is a messed up analogy, but I think of marketing like the fuel, the gas that gets put in. How much gas do you want to put in each one of those engines at what point in time, depending on where you want to go and how fast you want to get there, right? You're not going to, this is to make it practical. It's very unlikely, last day of the quarter today, right?
Sure.
It would probably be, and this happens a lot. All the sales leaders out there are going to be like focused on the stuff that's right in front of their nose, as they should be today. Close those frigging deals, make it happen. We're 98% of target. Where's the other 2 coming from? Like, Daniel, what you got? And they're going to be really, really short-term focused. And that's correct. They should be today. There should be a little bit of time spent on planning, etc. But throughout this week, progressively, they've become more focused on this date. So if the marketing team came over and said, hey, we know what you need. There are 20 enterprise leads. We have a 6-month sales cycle. These guys are right at the start. We're going to pour that gas in the tank. It's like, I don't need that engine right now. I need the other engine. I need the wins. I need the smaller deals. I need the deals that are about to drop. I need the enterprise deals you put in months ago, right? So it's a very simple example, but maybe it helps make the point.
And understand the cycle too, the length of the sales cycle. How long is your sales cycle is not just a sales question, it's a marketing question. And giving someone a 6-month sale to work on the last day of the quarter, they're not getting called,
Right.
But the ones that are close or, maybe just about to tip over, maybe they get an extra deal or something, but yeah.
And it's not saying that marketing don't do it or salespeople don't work them. It's just saying that this is just one example of how mid-quarter, mid-month, mid-week priorities can shift, right? They're always changing. There are a number of variables. This is one of them. And on this day of all days, it's probably not the best day to start net new prospecting into an enterprise account, right?
Right.
It's not going to serve the business well. It's a simplistic example, but this is the interface between sales and marketing. It's really hard to get it right. I think I've not experienced it too much in my career, right? I've not worked in a ton of places, but this did work really well at Intercom. It wasn't perfect, but it did work well. And to have it work well, it requires an awful lot of trust, right? Because it's very easy, and even the best of relationships, this is going to happen. Like you're gonna say the wrong thing. You're gonna misrepresent something. This is bad, or you might use language that feels fine to you, but not to. Sales has their baby. I know my deals. Don't you talk about them. Marketing has their baby. I know my leads. I know how to get them. Don't you talk about them.
Right.
And I think there needs to be, the team as a whole needs to have a way to interface and communicate. And that's what I meant by like filtering with mediation with leaders, etc. But then ideally there's this core team. It's like a tiger team of leaders and maybe even senior reps, right? Or really trusted reps that come together in a private room around a round table and just have a very open dialogue. And they bring as much information to that meeting as they can. And they leave all the egos at the door. And they just say all the shit that's on everyone's mind. And no one takes offense because we all trust each other. We've built relationships up, and we say stuff to each other that we wouldn't say out to everybody else, right? But we really get to the core of the problem, because the worst thing that you can do is a rep on the floor, right? 3 months into the role says, geez, these leads are bad. And you just let that sit, that spreads. And then a marketing person might say, sales it doesn't feel like they're following up on our leads. Like, why aren't they closing anything? And they let it sit and it spreads. And the next time 2 people that have never talked to each other before get together from either side of that equation, they've already got this, they've got this bad context, right? There's already a negative pretext to that.
Right.
So I really like honest, open, hard conversations about the state of play, the quality of leads, what we're doing. I want to encourage it. I want everyone to feel confident talking about it, but I also want it to be a resolve where a core group of people come together and say, well, what do we actually do about that? This sentiment, this thing, where is it coming from? How does it manifest? Is there something we can do to fix that? Or is this just a case of us, saying, hey, have respect for your peers? Right. Not as bad as it sounds. Yeah.
Right. And thinking about marketers and myself and others, none of us actually that I know of, I've ever met a marketer that actually wants to create a bad lead.
No one has a crap lead like that. No.
So if it happens, we don't like it either.
No,
but we need to know about it. And your point earlier, and I love the Tiger team, egos at the door. And I imagine the conversation that's happening is around your point earlier, the idea of not getting rid of the broad strokes of leads are bad and getting specifics. What about that lead made it bad? Like what, or they didn't ever call you back. They ghosted the hell out of you. Can we figure out why? But not just, I hate them, I hate you.
Yeah. And when you gloss over the detail like that, it can be too easy. It's people want to find a villain, right? It'd be lovely if everything was binary. You're bad, I'm good. It's not my fault, right? And that was the maturity piece earlier on. There are so many variables in sales and in marketing. So many, in fact, that we just can't account for them all, right? We can control like a fraction of what our buyer and prospect is going to do, the way they interpret us and our solution. We can control a small part of it, and we should. But like, it's an oversimplification to say things like that. Like, this lead is bad. Yeah. And that's when you really, you bust that myth, like you debunk it, you go deep. Let's talk about it. Not an attack on your person. I'm not challenging you. I'm not telling you that you're wrong, right? And I'm not telling you that it's a bad lead or why was it bad? And it might be as simple as, oh, well, they just never show up to meetings or something. Well, that feels like something that we might be able to control within the sales team, Right. Or actually, like, no, they show up. It's just, we just don't have a fit. Well, they know nothing about our product, right? And they should have, because this is the composition of that lead type, right? They should know. And then you get into the nuance of it, and then you can have like a really objective chat. But so many people don't do that because it's hard, and it's all prepositioned by a strong and healthy relationship. So if you don't have leaders that get along well, it's very unlikely that anybody else within the org is going to get along well, Not saying that I've never met leaders that don't, but I think that tone and that example needs to be set from the top. And when it is, like, it's amazing. We're all playing for the same team. And like, the leads were shit this month, but here's objectively why they were bad, right? And by the way, we just weren't that good at selling this month. We had a bunch of people out the office. We didn't meet the SLAs. We had a conference that distracted us. Hold our hands up. We actually, we just need more training on how to run these types of deals better. That's why we're not converting, Right. It takes a particular type of maturity within an organization to have that chat, I think.
Yeah. Strong leadership to be able to bridge those gaps so you can just have real open, honest conversations to make it happen. I love that.
It sounds dead easy, doesn't it?
Oh, it's super easy. Just click here.
Yeah. Sign up right now.
Well, my next question is like, who are you? How you've clearly gained some maturity in the sales side. You have a bigger picture understanding. Now you're getting into tech. Take me back in time. Little Will days. Did you know you're going to be crushing the sales quotas and building out tech as an entrepreneur?
No. I had no idea. I was one of those kids that didn't know much about what they wanted to do. I mean, it depends what age we look at. I've always been very outgoing and gregarious and really like problem solving, and I struggled to hold my attention on things. And just sales, actually, not that I fell into it. I didn't. I always enjoyed interfacing with folks, solving problems, making money, right? And then throughout my studies and then like university, college, when I finished up, I just didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know. I did general business management studies at university with a focus on procurement and supply chain management, right? Transport, logistics, things like that.
Yeah.
And I went into a job to do that. And I very quickly realized, like, I'm actually not bad on the phone. In fact, I was very bad. But I felt really confident. I'm not bad on the phone. I'm actually really good at solving these problems day in, day out. It's constantly changing. I get to speak with new people and try new things all the time. It's never simple. It's not a set path. That really appealed to me as a person, right? Just the makeup of my mind. I couldn't sit down and do the same thing every day forever. I would get really bored and depressed. So
Yeah,
we're getting
I
into
can see
psychology of it now, but sales is really fun because, and as similar as it is to marketing, like imagine a marketeer would work on a sprint for 6 weeks or a project or a website redesign or deliver a campaign. And there's an ebb and a flow to that. And there's planning and consultation and build and then delivery. But there's these bodies, these chunks of work. And in sales, you have the same thing. It's just oftentimes you have lots more of them and they come at you way faster.
Right.
And you have to be constantly deciding where and where not to put your time. That's a really good seller. I'm not saying that I'm one of them, but the best sellers I know are those that don't break their back and work 90 hours a week, right? They're the ones that can fit it all into 40 to 50, maybe 55, 60 at a stretch if they're really pushing it hard end of quarter, right?
Yeah.
But they find ways to navigate that tricky maze of where do I put my time at any point in time, So I'm a seller. I have been for a long time. When I was younger, I enjoyed it. And then over time, I just learned myself what makes me happy is a variety in my work. And it just so happened that sales really gives me that.
There's a bit of a rush to it, right? I've definitely dabbled a little bit in that. And, there's a reason why you bang a gong or you have a little celebration at the end because it's a little like mini battle sometimes. Sometimes it's several month long battle or challenge. And when it finally happens, there's time to celebrate. I feel like sometimes marketers don't have that, that celebration moment. You mentioned there's projects that launch, but there's not usually that. It's like a different kind of thing. You don't really have that release of like, oh, we did it, It's like, okay, the site's live. What's wrong with it?
It's always on. The work continues, right?
Yeah. How do we make it better?
I actually don't know why that is, where we can get into it, but I know that with sales, there is a very definitive conclusion to sales teams are structured in a certain way. It's silos within a silo. There shouldn't be silos, they're not, but you have SDRs, they generate demand, they qualify, they set meetings in most organizations. You have account executives, they manage those deals and bring them to a natural conclusion, which is setting up, paying, and closing. And then oftentimes they'll hand it off to someone in success or account management, and then they'll begin their work. So there are these very clearly defined tranches of work with really clear start points, and really clear end points. And there needs to be, because it's this big old machine, you put stuff in and you want money out the other end of it, and to help people, right? But no, I just think by nature of that work, it's easier to say, my job began on this day and my job finishes on that day, right? Close that deal. And now I need to do it all over again, So it really is just a complete gutting of everything, and you start fresh, and maybe that's something to do with it. Like with marketing, you're right. You deliver the website. It's like, well, it's not finished yet. Now we need to continue testing, continue optimizing, etc. We've run that campaign. Great. The next one's coming right away. There's a lot we learned from that. How do we apply it? Whereas in sales, you figuratively shake somebody's hand, you collect the check, and then sometimes you hand it off to somebody else.
Right.
Not to make it sound disingenuous or like you don't care, but maybe that's something to do with it. Just the nature of the work.
It's just, it's a different, it's, the science laboratory versus the something, the arena.
Well, it's marketing's a bit like the science laboratory, right? If that's what you meant. And then sales is, I don't want to call it a production line. It sounds really bad, but it's a sequence of events, and there's clear ownership from each party within that sequence. They know what they do. And it's like a relay. It goes from one to another. So you have this natural conclusion of one person's work and the next person's begins, right? And even if it doesn't, I mean, I've held multiple roles where you kind of do it all, you do the whole thing, including the account management. But I suppose there's something about getting paid, and that in most organizations is the goal, right? We have a revenue target. We want to hit that number. And like, talk about being one step away from revenue. I mean, you're touching it in sales, right?
Totally.
Maybe there's something to do with that. You're literally, you close that deal for 50K and you see the company go boop, right? Whereas with marketing, it's perhaps a little bit more incremental and gradual, and the results aren't always as immediate and definitive, you know?
It's true. And, sometimes I've even, personally struggled when I've been in marketing. If I didn't have all the tracking set up or wasn't clear, I would wonder, have I helped even? And sure enough, the executive team might be wondering the same thing, but it's like,
Yeah.
have I though? Whereas in sales, that was my deal. I did that. I moved this company forward. Now I didn't do it by myself, but I finished it for everyone. And there's just the higher profile.
Yeah, there is, right? And we give it that status because it's so obvious. I think it's easy in a way. It's like, well, obviously you did that thing and now there's money and now we're closer to our goal. Like it's easy, but you kind of hit the nail on the head when you said everybody else, right? There's so much involved in it. And like, some people will say, hey, well done, AE. Others will say, well done, AE and SDR. Others will say, hey, it was a team effort. Well done, team sales. And then others will say, like, well done, RevOps. Well done, marketing. Yeah. Right? Well done, customer support that triaged and helped through 3 months of trial and pilot.
Right.
And that's the tricky bit. And that's the bit that can really help with those harder conversations around what is and isn't working. It's no salesperson is an island. And the person that says, oh, I can close anything sounds a bit like an island to me. You've got to watch out for that because unless they are pure outbound, but even then, when you cold call somebody, what's the next thing they do? You go and check out your website.
Check your website. Yeah.
Well, yeah, they probably put the phone down and forget about you, but so a lot of them will
probably
check your website. Right. So it's this collective team effort, and without, God, my mind's just swimming with stuff here. Like, talks about measurement and attribution. That's really hard. Like, ideally, we have all the systems in place to empirically track every touch point and everything weighted, how it influenced the deal. Like, great, and the system can tell us. But oftentimes, it's not just that takes time to put in place. It's that it never happens. It didn't happen at Intercom. Like, in all the time I was there, we were working on that for so long. Of course, we set up funnel metrics, and there was attribution modeling. And I can't talk too much about this because I didn't set it up.
Right.
But it felt like, in many ways, it was just this unfinished project. Not a bad thing. It was just never brought to a conclusion. And the glue that kind of kept everybody sane throughout all those projects, those iterations, those, we've got a new North Star, and now we can track this data. All that aside, when everything was said and done, it was salespeople and marketing folks and everyone else talking together and saying, that deal we had with Scottish Power, they came through from that ebook or that webinar, or like, they love the website redesign, or like, product team, that new messenger version we just launched. This is the feedback I got from this customer. They love it. Let's do more of that. It's really hard to do that as you get bigger. And I think it's getting harder for Intercom. But a while ago, the whole company would come together in a common cafeteria, and there'd just be this, I talk about this tiger team in a round table, right? Yeah. You can manufacture that as you grow up. But in the early days, it was just everyone thrown into a room for lunch. And like, conversation would just flow and people would just feed off each other. And it was a very clear sense of purpose, and there was a shared ownership, right? It never felt like sales was on its own. It never felt like marketing or anyone else were working a thankless role. Just through natural conversation, it was made clear the work that people were doing, but it's hard to maintain when you lose that over time.
And see that feedback that, hey, you contributed, the thing you did, that ebook that you have no idea if that actually moved the needle. People consumed it, but you don't know if they liked it.
What's the story behind it?
Yeah, but that feedback back from sales, that's like gold. Just, hey, you were part of this. Made me even wonder the whole concept of like, tip the bar back, or like, the bartender or the waitress, tipping the bartender here. Hey, thanks for those fast drinks or whatnot. But maybe moving things around. Maybe sales should start throwing some cheddar at marketing. Hey, that lead, that was magic. Send me some more and have them all routed my way. Here's some money.
They absolutely should. They absolutely should. And there are some practical ways you can do it right. We, common areas and did a lot of intangible things and leadership setting the tone and the vibe. But one thing that Intercom did and still does really well is they would do like deal reviews in a very public way. So you'll have some sales teams that do a stand-up and they'll break down a deal and they'll do it at a high level. And then really good ones might find ways to go deep and pull out the learning. At Intercom, every Friday, they would do a thing called show and tell. And historically, it was an opportunity for engineers, developers, researchers, product managers to get up and say, this is what we've built. And it was so fucking cool. And it was,
wow.
It was alpha. It was like all the cool stuff that was coming. Like you just felt, for the sellers, it was like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is like the roadmap of the roadmap of the roadmap. So cool, right? And then over time, we started having sales folks get up and tell these stories as well. So they do a show and tell on a deal or a win. And then, by the way, that product that you demoed 4 months ago and you released last month, well, here's how it's impacted this deal. And that was always an opportunity to do multiple shout outs to product owners, managers, maybe the marketing team at times, support team and reps, right? But it just helped to really promote this sense of community and kind of common purpose.
Yeah.
So like, say for anything else, if you're a company and you're wondering, oh, how can I bring these two groups closer together? Just start putting some people on the spot at the end of every week and have them talk in a public way about how and why they won a deal, right? And I can guarantee you no one's going to get up there and say it was me. I did it on my own.
Yeah, all me.
They're accountable to their peers at that point. It really forces you to reflect. So,
well, this is good stuff, man. I know you've made this transition out of primarily focus on sales, but now into like tech. Vidu, what's going on? Why do they call you the god of gifs?
They don't.
Or gifs and JPEGs? What's going on? What have you created?
GIFs, peanut butter. No, we've made
in it now. Do you call it a GIF or a GIF?
I call it a GIF.
You call it a GIF, and since you are the god of it, then we'll just go with whatever you call it.
Yeah, take my lead, please.
Yeah,
no, it's
your majesty.
It doesn't matter. Call it what you want, so long as you use it. That's fine. No problem.
Yeah. Okay.
No,
what is this?
So this will be on camera, right? This will be on
yeah. We'll get video. Some people are listening, but we'll just describe it for those that aren't.
For the listeners, I am holding a piece of card. Okay. So Vidu, it was the idea for it. I say the idea for it, like the problem that we're trying to solve here was really grappled and wrestled with at Intercom. So a long time ago, not too long ago, I was selling, and then I was outbound selling at Intercom, and I was trying all these wild and crazy ways, inventive ways to get not just attention of prospects, but meaningful attention and engagement from prospects. We were recording videos. I was putting together very customized demos of Intercom, and I was completely customizing and personalizing the whole experience. It would take me time, but when I did that, it really showed the length that I'd gone to. And it framed what we do in such a personal and relatable way that it was very hard for the prospect not to imagine how we could help or not to engage with the illuminating question you asked or whatever it might be. Point is, I was doing outbound and it was really friggin' hard. And a way that I found to make it easier was to really show people you cared, create inventive, personalized media, demos, videos, GIFs, all sorts of things.
I like it.
Put in emails and whatnot. Yeah, and it really worked, really worked. I met my now co-founder at Intercom. He was working there a little bit before me, an engineer. I did a show and tell one day, and I got up and I talked about the outbound motion that we were setting up. And I talked about what I was doing, and none of it was scalable, but it was working. It just wouldn't work for long. And at the end of it, so he ran over. I said, if anyone has any ideas or wants to help. And at the end of it, he ran over and he sort of shook me. Went, oh my God, I think we can deliver like 85% of the value that you just shared there, but do it with like a fraction of the investment. Like we could do it in an automated way. We can scale it. Okay, wow. So for like 3 years then, and during that time, I moved into management and built an outbound team. And we used a lot of the tools and techniques that me and Gavin came up with, right, to affect our number. But we came up with all sorts of projects, tools, products for the marketing team, DG team. We even worked with product managers at times to demo Intercom in really personal ways, create GIFs of it. We built tools for the sellers to let them make videos and GIFs on the fly in Slack. We just had a wild time helping salespeople increase engagement and response rates in emails. And then one day we said, this is a problem not exclusive to Intercom. Can we do something outside? So then we left, we set up Vidu. And now we offer sellers a way to create a personalized GIF of themselves. They record a video once. We convert that into a GIF. They hold up this mini green screen that we give them. It's not
okay.
green. And then that GIF that we capture and we save for them, they can very quickly, in about 10 seconds, personalize that, create new versions of it. It's still you waving. It's still you scratching your chin, but all the content on this green screen can be personalized to the prospect.
Oh, cool. Gotcha. Okay. So that way you don't need to write the different name every time. Yeah, like
correct.
Because otherwise you have to write Jeff, Casey, Will.
Yeah, you have to get a whiteboard and do it, right? And the bigger issue here, and the trend we're seeing, is a lot of folks will use tools like Vidyard and Loom and video selling tools.
Sure.
And they're really great, right? There isn't really a substitute for video dialogue, save for two-way video and then in-person meeting people. Like, it's much better than just a standard email. But the issue with outbound selling is that they don't know you. They don't owe you anything. We know how hard it is to get somebody's attention in an email for even 5 seconds. Why would anyone in their right mind, this is controversial, why would anyone in their right mind think that it's appropriate to send someone a 2-minute or a 90-second video, right? And have them click a link, go to it, wait for it, buffer it, watch it, then come back to the place that they were. Like, this is a marketing show, right?
Yeah.
We want as few clicks as possible.
Sure.
We want like time to value to be. So when you put this friction in front of prospects, at first it worked because in and of itself, I got a video. That's new. I'll watch it.
Oh, yay.
Yeah.
It's like getting paper mail.
Yeah. Yeah. But like paper mail now. So maybe video will make a big comeback. But now it's like, okay, you've got these sellers spending hours making video and there's a barrier to entry. You can't just hop on. Then you've got these prospects being presented with a frictionful experience to consume it. The message isn't getting through. So we don't purport to be a complete replacement for video. We say, hey, early in a cadence, when they don't know you, when time is a precious commodity, make these in 10 seconds, put them in emails, communicate a very clear, powerful, personalized message. Do it in a visual way that shows them you're real, you're a human, but don't force them to jump through hoops, click links, go places to consume your message.
It sits on the email, so they don't need to leave anywhere. They can just...
No. When they open the email, the GIF will play. Immediately they see Casey.
I want to play with it.
They get a sense of you. Yeah, play with it. They get a sense of you. And then these GIFs, by the way, you can make a really bad GIF, just like you can make a bad video or email in general. They're only as impactful as the content that you put into them. 2 parts. It's you, it's what you do, right? Expression that you pair this with, but it's also the message. This is where the marketing stuff comes in, like really deeply understanding your personas, not what you do, but what they do, what might not be working, and asking illuminating, challenging questions about this, or making observations or offering insights. But when you look at an email and it's a wall of text, it can be quite easy to reflexively ignore that, even if there's a video link in it.
What do I put in there, man? Guide me. Be my spirit animal. So I want to do this.
I mean, for you, what are you trying to do? You want to get more guests on the podcast?
Well, we have a service that creates and produces podcasts for businesses. Okay. So we want them to buy a podcast, like let us create it for you.
Yeah. So, I mean, why would anybody want to create a podcast, do you think?
So they can meet their future customers.
Mm-hmm. And why want them to do that?
So they can have great conversations with them, build a relationship, and then do business together.
There you go. Awesome. So we could build out a set of questions or observations about that and put them into GIFs to grab someone's attention. So that might be
like what? What would you put in there?
So like, did you know? So let's say you're researching a company, right? And you notice that a large portion of their customers are a particular demographic. You might offer them an insight and say like, hey, Casey, did you know like 80% of X demographic are listening to podcasts? Right? It's just an interesting insight. Like, oh, I didn't think about that.
So you have like a stat, like a fact on it.
Yeah. So that's one example. Like,
okay, cool.
Offer them an insight. Like, why should they care about podcasts? You could also ask a question. Do you know how many of your customers listen to podcasts regularly?
No.
Yeah. No, that's the question.
Oh, that's the question.
Yeah. And the idea here is it's not to communicate everything through a GIF. It's to highlight a piece of information. It's either
highlight it.
It's like an amplification of an insight. It's the fact that you've done research about them. Like, hey, I noticed you were on, the Hard Corps podcast last week. Amazing. And then below that GIF, you might say, hey, you ever thought about running your own podcast, and give them some reasons why, right? It's really about taking what is sometimes a dense message and taking a really important element of it that's easy to overlook and highlighting that to set tone, to kind of earn the right to get the rest of the message engaged with. Does that help you out?
Totally, man. Because like let's say they were on a show, right? And
yeah,
to your point, it could be, it looks like I'm on the site. It looks like you can have like a website, or you can have different things. So I could have a link to them on Spotify or something, like, hey, you were just on this episode. I just saw you on the show.
Yeah. And that might be the perfect opener for you to then ask some questions about, like, how was that show? Do you know what the reach was? Ever thought about controlling this or running this yourself? And it's, I mean, you tell me how you break into accounts, the questions you ask, the things not about Hard Corps and the services you offer, but the shit that really keeps your prospects up at night. Like, why might a podcast for them be a potential solution to what? And then we structure language around this. So, and that's what I mean about, like, you can make a bad gift. This is the really hard part. This is where this is where marketing comes in, and that really strong relationship and dialogue between sales. Here's what's happening on the ground. Here's what people are saying. Here are the problems they have. And marketing with their insight at a broader level. That all comes together and creates like amazing statements, observations, insights that these prospects are really going to resonate with. So just to come back to the video point, by the way, don't stop sending videos, right?
Yeah.
This leads back to what we were talking about earlier, right? You've only got X units of time in a week. You can't send a video to everyone always. Who are you going to send it to and when? Maybe sending a video on day one, first touch, knowing that 10% or maybe less of people will actually view it. Maybe that's not the best use of time. It might be. If you're whale hunting, you only need one deal, it might be. But for a lot of people I work with, they'll score engagement and interaction with their sequences, with their outreach, right? With the sales motion. And then as you start to become a slightly warmer lead, then they'll say, boom, it's cold call time, it's video time. My investment of time goes way up because the likelihood that someone's going to come from this increases. Yeah.
This is great, man. It's all full circle. We talked about the investment time. Now we're coming back around to it. Like, this
constantly changing.
Different ways we can tweak that. And this might be early on. Can I scale this marketing wise? Can I like have a column in a database that pulls for every single email address? So not only drops the name, but maybe drops the link and dynamically change it for every one of their gifts as I send, or does it have to go from
you can make them just in time with a Chrome extension. Sellers can record them, marketers record them quickly, make them quickly. But then, yes, you can upload a CSV. You can integrate through Zapier. We have an integration with SalesLoft as well now. And you can do what you're describing, which is like insert dynamic variables into these GIFs.
You got to get HubSpot next so we can really have a party. Go to inbound.
So HubSpot works, but we get asked that quite a bit. It's outreach and HubSpot next, I think. We're debating which one. Maybe outreach. But actually, you can do it with HubSpot.
Yeah, I hear you.
You can do it with HubSpot through Zapier. If you use Zapier, and the juice has to be worth the squeeze, though, right?
Right.
But if you're sending lots of emails and a 50% increase in relative response rate would mean a whole lot for you, then let's spend an hour stitching it up. But yes, it's totally possible.
Gotcha. Well, I just know HubSpot's a biggie, but outreach, obviously you got the sales and user warrior using that.
The thing about outreach and SalesLoft, and we're a 2-person company at Vidu, right? So when I talk about marketing, I have such a profound respect and appreciation for them because I know how fucking hard it is to do now on my own, me and Gavin. It's really difficult. But we're 2 people, right? And we can't do everything all at once. So for us, it's very important that we meet our customers where they are, as in the major problem that I see the market suffering right now is people are watching fewer videos, and salespeople continue to send them. The common knowledge is people aren't watching as many of our videos. Let's send more videos, right? And that's fine with emails because emails, it's not good, but you can automate that. With videos, it's like I'm getting diminishing returns. I'll increase the investment of my time. you know? So for us, yes, we do work with marketeers and other forms, other sort of personas within the sales space, but really it's SDRs and BDRs that we're laser focused on at this early stage. And it's helping them to get a better return from their time early in a cadence. And so video's the target for us for now.
Love that. Yeah, it makes sense, right? Because at that point, you haven't yet earned the ability to routinely get them on a call or to get them to reply back. You're trying to bridge that gap. Maybe they've seen some good content, maybe they're intrigued, but maybe they don't want to go down a funnel with you just yet. And so it's like, we're at this, should we play, shouldn't we? And so you need that extra boost to get them to engage.
Yeah, exactly. It's a way to earn the right to start a dialogue. And I'm hesitant to say it's this time efficient way, but it is. It's a way that helps sellers to, it's not just save time though. It's to communicate who they are. It's like their number one asset is themselves. Like there are thousands of sales development professionals out there, and they're all competing with each other, whether or not they work at competing companies with competing products. They're all competing because it's an attention economy now. A CEO at a company, you don't need to worry. If you're sales off, you don't need to worry about outreach. You have to worry about every other damn company messaging that person as well. You know?
It's true.
Yeah. So in that sense, you've all become commoditized. Getting in front of them, showing them that you're real, showing them that you actually care, letting them know that you went a step further, because the vast majority of people don't do this. Sales emails are very samey, and it's not because they look the same. It's because they talk about themselves a lot. It's not a difficult problem to solve, right? Thinking through some good copy for a message that really resonates with the buyer. The painful bit is when you do all that frigging work and then they just don't read it, right? That's what we want to solve for. It's just to let them know that you're real, that you care, that you notice. Hey, I noticed you grew your team by 250% last month. Wow. And then below that, one thing I notice when they grow in that way, like sometimes this can be happening, blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
That's what we're
I love that. The context that shows that I looked you up. This isn't complete, mass mail. This is something.
My observation, because outbound, it's like, why is there a response rate of 1% to 2% the world over? And then why do we keep doing it? It's woefully inefficient. Why do we do it? There's this massive human capital cost to the outbound sales motion. Yet most companies at some point, in their life cycle, need to start to do it, right? Inbound's no longer enough to sustain growth. What are we going to do? Let's hire people and let's go outbound. There's a massive, massive cost to it. Right. And I wonder, I used to work at Google and I would send messages to people, and if only they knew how we could help,
right.
Not that we're the best, but come on, or Intercom, you'd sit down, you'd make that message and you think, Jesus, these guys it's just so obvious, right? To me, the seller, it's just so obvious. Like, we can help these, we work with this other person, and it's just, holy smokes, do they not want to save a ton of cash? Do they not want to hit their goals? Sounds really ignorant, but I'm making a point, right?
No.
There could be just the tightest fit ever. And if only they knew, you know what I mean?
Right.
The issue is, I'm like, why don't they respond to that? The issue is, I feel that you've not earned the right, and they've been burnt before by other salespeople. There are many more bad sellers than there are good. There are.
100%.
And you've all been sent a video that did nothing but talk about them. You've all been sent an email that was just completely forgettable. Worse than that, took your time and you were annoyed about it at the end of it,
Yeah.
Folks out there have trained these buyers to ignore people that have really valid, interesting, genuine, value providing things to say. Honest people that have done their research and want to have a conversation about something that might really be able to help you. And it's not that we have to have the conversation. It's just that there are people out there that do that work, right? Mm-hmm. And they don't get noticed. And they don't. I've tied myself in knots here. I forgot what the point was, but I'm so passionate about that piece. People send so many emails. It's a sea of them. It's a sea.
I know.
And we're not doing anyone a service.
It's a silly game, honestly. It's the game that you don't need to be playing. You could be podcasting. You could be, showing how much you care. You could be holding up a customized card. There's a million things you could do just to give them a little drop of caring.
Yeah, exactly. Just care. That's the point, right? That's the point. Buyers don't care until they know that you do. That's the point. The reason
there's
people
your quote,
don't respond,
sir.
Yeah, well, they don't give a damn until they know you do too, or first, right? And that's because of past experience. That's because of all the other shit they have to do. They have to know that an investment of their time in you is warranted, right?
And you got to start. You got to lead that dance and show that you've invested in them.
Yeah, exactly. This is why buyers don't respond, because they're fearful. Correct me if I'm wrong. They're fearful that you're going to abuse their time. Like, who doesn't want to improve elements of their business? Right? Mm-hmm. Everybody does. Everyone's working on it. The issue is, are you the person that's going to help me? Are you just some other talking head that's telling me I can get a 10,000x ROI? And, the world's full of those people. It's hard for the good ones to stand out.
100%. 100%, man. Preach. Where can people, let's throw out the video URLs. Where can people contact you? Where you want them to hit you up? Where are all the good links at?
Thanks for the riff. Vidu.io. You go to the homepage, you can't miss it. You can sign up for a free
spell
plan.
that, and people can click on it.
Vidu.io.
Boom. That's so short.
Yeah. And we're going to redesign the website soon, so get ready for that. But you can come on, you can check it out. It's free to sign up. You can use it for free indefinitely, up to X amount of times per month. Go check out the pricing page. And then if you want to sign up, we've got monthly, annual options, automation, all the rest of it. But for me, I love seeing the people sign up every day, create new gifts, some of them amazing, some of them not, right? Constantly giving them feedback, working with the community. So yeah, do you want to check this out and give it a try? Come on over.
Love it. Love it. I'm going to give it a shot, man. I love the idea of that. Because I care and I want to express that. So this is really good stuff, man. Thank you so much for being on here. I've literally learned from you. I feel like I just went to school, sales school, as well as caring school and video and all these things. So thank you again.
I appreciate it. Thank you, man. Fun chat. Thanks for letting me pitch hard.
Yeah. Pitch hard. That's right. Well, if you teach hard, it's like teach hard, pitch hard, right?
Yeah, I got carried away.
No, I'm
obsessed with this problem, man. And I haven't figured it all out yet, but that's what we're trying to do.
Well, that obsession leads to good stuff. And for those people listening, if you're obsessed like I am, well, then you definitely got to try this thing out. And then also, if you've learned something, then for sure you got to share this episode. And I freaking know you learned something, because I literally have 2 pages of notes over here, front and back. So share this. That's my care card right here. Look, I have a page of notes.
Can I, your energy is infectious. Can I do my best impression of you?
Yeah.
Can I close the show?
Oh yeah, sure.
You ready? Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Thanks everybody. You're listening to Hard Corpse Marketing. That was me, Willie Wizard. This was Casey, my boy. Thanks so much. See you next time.
There it is. There it is.